We continue in the section of communication, and in this video, as its name indicates, you are going to learn some of the characteristics of communication. Once the elements, the process, and the types of communication have been seen, it is also necessary to know some of their characteristics. Therefore, with this video, you must be able to understand, know, identify, and apply the characteristics of communication to make it effective. We find 4 basic characteristics that we must be able to apply in this process. That is, when you prepare your communication process on a remote device, you must take into account that the messages are clear and precise, and also with an order of ideas. This order of ideas must have an objective, a purpose in the receiver, also so that it must be understood correctly. Therefore, it must have a guiding thread that gives that order and meaning to the ideas that you want to convey. And finally, we must be concise, depending on the need of the message. Not by using many more words or more words than necessary, it is better, quite the opposite, the message can be confusing. In fact, there are studies that show that about 61% of people feel that they lose their time in work meetings. For these interactions to take place effectively, you must always try to be concise. It does not matter the medium in which you communicate, but attention, you cannot reduce the message to the point that it loses strength or becomes incomprehensible. In addition, as communication is interpersonal, we must also take into account that it is social, intended, transactional, multidimensional, and irreversible. Any communicative act in which people interact, even in the workplace, leads to social situations. Each one is aware of the presence of the other and is influenced by what is done as a result. Therefore, we must take into account that all behavior becomes communication. What we have also commented on nonverbal communication, that is, in the workplace, we must be aware of avoiding transmitting thoughts, sensations, and personal ideas. For example, most of the time when we work as a team, not all the members of the team like us, or we have an affinity with them, and this is transmitted in communication if it is not worked. You have to be professional and prepared to avoid transmitting if someone does not have that feeling, because this will influence you when collaborating and participating in the team. Although we prepare the communication process, when it is carried out, you cannot control everything that happens. And we must be aware of them and be prepared to handle the unpredictable. As has been mentioned before, communication is social. So we can say that it has 2 communicative dimensions, the content and the relationship, which are completely intertwined and interrelated, so we must also prepare both. In the basic characteristics, we have commented that the communication process must have a purpose, a goal. Obviously, this has consequences that must be aware of them, and that in the case of being negative, you can try to mitigate, excuse, etc. But once you have said something, it is difficult to withdraw, so you have to be very careful with this. And finally, as an important element within communication, there is assertiveness. An assertive person is the one who knows how to express ideas. In addition, they approach people emotionally, from empathy and respect. This facilitates work relationships. If the emitter is assertive, it transmits a feeling of solidity to the receiver, who feels heard and attended, and vice versa. Within the work environment, assertive people are considered a huge advantage because they greatly facilitate teamwork, which is always difficult when done remotely. So we can conclude that in the communication process, not only must we take into account and prepare the elements that make up this process, such as the channel, the code, the message, etc. The main elements of this process are the emitter and the receiver, that is, the people. Therefore, we must not only focus on the content, but also on the different types of people that make up the teams. And therefore, in the different interrelationships that occur between them, depending on the personal characteristics, the skills on which we will work later in this course, attitudes and aptitudes. Interpersonal communication is essential in the day too. day life of people, and most of us need, seek and learn from the interactions with others. And all this, both in the personal and professional realm. So we must be skilled and improve our communication competence and know the people who make up the team. Therefore, the first time you work in a team with people you barely know, it is more difficult. But as you get to know the people who make up that team, how they like to work, what are their concerns, their skills, this team becomes much more productive because we get those interpersonal relationships. Well, with this video, we hope that the basic characteristics of the communication process and the importance of the people who make up the team have become clear to you, so that a good communication can take place. Finally, here we leave you bibliography and references in case you are interested in expanding your knowledge on the topics discussed here.